everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys a story time all about my very first car accident. So let's get started. Okay, so I drive a Scion FRS. It's a little teeny tiny sports car. The day that I got that car, I was literally driving it off the lot and I had a gut feeling like I'm going to wreck this car. I just knew. I had never been in a car accident before where I was the one that was driving. I had been in like minor like fender benders when other people were driving, but I had never wrecked a car myself. I'm a very, very responsible driver. I've never had a speeding ticket. I only have ever been pulled over like 2 or 3 times, and it was because I had a headlight out and I got pulled over like 3 times in a matter of a month. So like I'm very, very careful. I'm very, very cautious. But I always had this gut feeling like this is going to be the car that I wreck. And it freaked me out for a while, and it kind of made me like super paranoid about driving places. And then I realized as time went on, I had a lot of close calls. And I don't know if it's because the car is so small or if people, I noticed people drive really aggressively around me. And I just kind of thought, well, they see a young girl in a sports car and they want to show off and they want to, act crazy. So I kind of brushed it off to it just being that. So I had the car. It was almost 2 years, roughly 2 years. And this was last year. I was on my way to Kings Island in Cincinnati, and I was almost there. I had Maddox with me in the car, and it was a beautiful day outside. It was like 85 degrees. The sun was shining. It was opening weekend for Kings Island. I was so excited to get there. And we were literally 20 minutes from our hotel. And if you have driven to Kings Island, when you're on 71 South and you're like right outside Mason, there's just that long stretch of highway. And we were on that, and traffic was pretty light. Like there hadn't been a lot of traffic that day at all. And we just hit a little patch where there was a ton of traffic. Everyone was flying, going like 75, 80 miles an hour. And, I was just, playing it cool. I had no reason to be nervous or anything. And I had saw like ahead of me a little bit, there was a utility truck that was just driving erratically. Like they were cutting people off. People were honking at him. Like I didn't really know what was going on, but I kind of fell back a little bit because I didn't want any part of that. And once traffic started to pick up a little bit more, I couldn't fall back anymore. Like cars were like bumper to bumper. Everyone was just flying down the highway. And there was a white SUV that I had saw a few miles back. Looked like they had cut off the utility truck, basically trying to say to the utility truck like, hey man, you need to stop, like you're not gonna drive like this. So I guess the utility truck driver got mad, obviously. I don't know if this man was drunk or he just wanted to play in traffic that day. I don't know what it was, but he got mad and was weaving in and out of traffic. He got in front of the white SUV, and I was on the left-hand lane on the left side, and the SUV and the utility truck were in the right lane. And I was going to pass both of them because traffic was just moving. I mean, I had a car directly in front of me, directly behind me, and I got right beside the white SUV, like right beside it. And I don't know if I was in his blind spot or what, but the utility truck slammed on his brakes because he was mad that the SUV had cut him off a few miles back. He slammed on his brakes, mind you, all the traffic, like I said, bumper to bumper, and the SUV swerved to avoid, rear-ending him, and swerved right into me. So on the side of the road there's a big grassy median, but there's like a steep ditch. It's almost like a V goes down, and it's like the highway, the ditch, and then like the median is like really big, and then the other traffic on the other side. So as soon as he hit me, my car, we were going so fast, just went airborne, like right over the ditch. We didn't even go in the ditch. We just flew straight over it and went into the median. So I'm panicking because I've never been into an accident before, and we were going so fast, and the sound of like his car hitting my car, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? I thought the airbags were gonna come out. Like all these thoughts were running through my head. I was terrified for Maddox because he was in his Carrier. He was in the front seat right beside me, and all these thoughts were going through my head, and I think I kind of forgot to brake because it was happening so fast. Then I was like, okay, and I started to pull the emergency brake, but then I was like, no, because I don't want to stop too quick and then roll the car. So you know, I slammed on the brakes and we eventually came to a stop. We were very, very fortunate that there were no signs in front of us, because on that highway there's a lot of signs that say like you're now entering whatever county, or there's like mile markers. We didn't hit any of those. There was no trees there was nothing. We landed right in the middle of the giant median. And of course the very first thing I did was I checked on Maddox. He was okay, totally shaken up, but he was okay. So I called 911 and it just rang and rang and rang. And at first I was like, who am I calling? Like, why aren't they picking up? And it rang like 6 or 7 times. And the girl answers, she's like real nonchalant. She's like, 911, what's your emergency? I'm freaking out. I'm like, I just got into a car accident. At this point, the cars were still flying past, so I couldn't see yet if the other driver had pulled over or not. I didn't know what to do. I'd never been in an accident like this before. So the 911 operator, she's like, you know, where are you? I'm like, I don't know. There's no mile markers. So she asked me, you know, have you already passed the Tanger outlets? And I said, yeah, you know, it was a few miles back, whatever. So she was like, okay, you know, and she's like, it's going to take us a few minutes to get out there to you, but she was like, I have a good idea of where you're at. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm sitting there, and like I said, it was really, really hot outside. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't want to turn off the car and then me and Maddox are sitting in the car roasting. But I was like, I don't want to get out the car either because there's traffic on both sides, like flying by. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I left the car on and I got out the car to see what the damage was. And I will insert a picture right here. So as you can see, I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, it could have been way worse, but it was pretty bad. So I get back in the car and I'm sitting there, and it took about 10-15 minutes. By this point, I was able to see that the white SUV did pull over and he was waiting on the other side of the road. And like I said, I was on the median. So people are driving by, they're taking pictures, they're looking like, what just happened? What did that girl do? They're probably thinking I'm like some dumb teenager because I look like I'm 12. So the firemen got there first and the paramedics, and they came over to me and they're like, you know, are you hurt? I'm like, no, not, you know, that I know of. So they're like, okay. And he instructed me to go ahead and turn off the car. So I rolled down the windows to make sure Maddox wouldn't suffocate, turned off the car, and the fireman, he was really, really nice about it. So he said, we're going to stop the traffic and we're going to escort you to the other side of the road. And, you know, he said, we don't really have to like totally check you out, but we'll wait with you for a few minutes. We'll talk to you. We'll wait and see if anything pops up, maybe any pain, any injuries you aren't aware of right now. He said, we'll just kind of hang out until the police get here. So I was like, okay, cool. So it took about another 10 or 15 minutes after that until the police got there. So by this point, so they had escorted me to the other side of the highway, and I was talking to the driver of the white SUV, who actually was really, really nice. He was an older gentleman. He was really, really apologetic. He said, you know, I can't believe that happened. You know, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. So me and him were kind of talking, whatever. There wasn't any like hard feelings. I was just really shaken up because I had never been in an accident before on the side of the highway by myself with Maddox, like in this little teeny tiny sports car. Like I had no idea what to do. So the police get there and they were super, super nice. It was 2 young officers. You know, they asked me the same questions, like, are you hurt? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. So once the police took over, the firemen and the paramedics went ahead and left. And the other guy, the white SUV, his car had no damage whatsoever. He had just like a little bit of blue paint on his door. That was it. My whole entire right side was completely smashed in. So yeah. But like I said, he was super, super nice. And we did the police report and all that. We exchanged insurance information. You know, the police took pictures and they kind of hung out for a few minutes just to make sure like there wasn't anything that either one of us needed. And they had told me when they got there, and the officer says, ma'am, is that your car over there? Because mind you, I was on this side of the highway. My car was still on the median with Maddox in the car. The windows are rolled down. And I'm like, yeah, because I also left the keys in the car. So I'm just standing on the side of the highway just like this, like, hello. And he's like, is that your car over there? I'm like, yeah. And he looks at the ditch on the side of the road. He goes, how did it get over there? I said, I don't know. I'm like, that's where I landed. I don't know. I guess just the force of like how fast we were going, we just went right over the ditch. So he's like, okay. So he's talking to the other officer. He's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get your car back over here. He's like, what do you want to do? He's like, do you want to call a tow truck? Do you want to try to drive it? Like, what do you want to do? So I said, well, I don't want to call a tow truck because, you know, I don't know. That seems like extra steps. I said, you know, if the car is drivable, I'm literally 20 minutes away from my hotel. If I can get to the hotel, I can figure it out from there. So he was kind of like, okay, I don't know if it's gonna be drivable, but okay. So the pressure was on because he said to me, you're gonna have to get in the car, try to drive it back over this ditch and onto the other side of the highway where everyone was standing at. So I'm like, okay. He goes, we're gonna stop all traffic. He said, you just have to drive. So I'm like, okay. So I asked him, I said, can you drive it for me? He's like, no, you have to do it. So I'm like, okay. So I actually had to drive a little bit further down the median to where the ditch kind of like leveled out a little bit because it was so like steep. I mean, there was no way I would have been able to just drive back across. So they stop all traffic. Everyone is staring at me. They're taking pictures, like people in their car. There's like semi trucks and everything. So I get in the car and I drive down the median a little bit and the police are directing me like where to go. And I drive back across. And I pulled back over onto the other side of the road and he asked me like, you know, does the car sound okay? Do you think it's okay to drive? I said, yeah, like, you know, it sounds okay. It doesn't seem like there's anything like hanging off or anything like that. So the two officers kind of looked at it just briefly and they were like, yeah, you know, we don't see any parts hanging off, you know, it doesn't look like anything fell off to the ground or anything like that. So he was like, okay, you know, I'm going to give you my information. He said, if you start to drive off and you get like a mile down the road, he said, if something happens, pull over, call us immediately. We'll send a tow truck. So I'm like, okay. So that was pretty much it. After that, like I said, we just kind of stood around. They finished up some paperwork. I had to like sign a few things and they sent us on our way. So all in all, the experience was utterly terrifying because I was in a car accident and it was scary. And, you know, I didn't know what to do. I, again, had never been in an accident. I didn't know how this was going to work in terms of the insurance, deductibles, rental cars. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what to do. I'm literally 6 hours away from home. I'm in Cincinnati. What do I do? So got to the hotel, called the insurance company, whatever, told them what happened. And I ended up getting in contact with the other driver's insurance company and they were in contact with me. I was in contact with all, there was a whole lot going on over like the next 2 days. And ultimately they said it was his fault, even though we both had told the officer that it was ultimately the utility truck driver's fault, but he fled the scene. So, you know, neither one of us saw his license plate, unfortunately. So technically it was the utility driver's fault, but unfortunately it was the driver of the SUV who was ultimately at fault. So his insurance paid for my car to get repaired. They also paid for me to have a rental for 2 weeks. And, you know, I really, really appreciated all of that because that made the process a lot easier. I took my car to Body by Cochran here in Cranberry Township and they were amazing. They made my car look brand new. I was so excited when I got her back and, you know, you could never even tell that she's been in an accident. They called me every few days with updates. The rental that I had was really, really nice. I had a 2018 Camry, which I loved, and I was mad that I had to give it back. But all in all, like I said, it was a bad situation because it was a car accident, but I think it played out as best as it could. You know, once the car like came to a stop and I realized what happened, I was very grateful that the airbags didn't come out. I was very grateful that we, you know, I mean, a split second could have made a drastic difference. We could have hit that ditch and rolled. We could have rolled all the way into the other lane of traffic. I mean, it could have gone so differently, but it didn't. So considering the situation, everything played out extremely well. The officers were extremely nice. The paramedics were extremely nice. The firemen, you know, everyone, you know, asked, "Are you okay?" And they kept asking me who was in the car. And I said, "My cat is in the car." And they're like, "Oh my God, is he okay? Did anything happen to him?" I'm like, "No, you know, he's fine. He's in a carrier." They were like, "Okay, good. We're happy to hear that." So all in all, you know, considering the situation, it did play out pretty well, as best as it could. But since then, after that accident has happened, I still have had many, many close calls. I'm still terrified to drive. And I recently joined a Facebook group for FRS drivers, and I have found that they discuss this thing called the curse between FRS drivers, BRZ drivers, and 86 drivers. And basically what the curse is that those cars are, for whatever reason, more prone to being in accidents. And, you know, I mean, obviously, I don't know if that's true or not, but, you know, there's like pages and pages of posts in this group about the curse, where they talk about, you know, they've been in accidents. Like, some people have been in numerous accidents, you know, with the same car. So after hearing about that and learning that, you know, the curse is a thing, it kind of makes more sense, because like I said, to this day, I'm still always like, every time I'm driving, you know, I just feel like I have so many close calls, and I always feel like I have to be on high alert at all times, because otherwise I feel like I'm going to wreck and die. So yeah, I think it's just that car. I don't know why, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Not very eventful, I know, nothing crazy happened, but yeah, that's the story of my very first ever car accident. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more story time videos. And thanks for watching.